So with that, I'll recall this meeting of the governing board for June 24th back in session. We just finished with a short executive session, and we're here tonight with the members of the CEC and substitutes tonight for Debbie Thompson, Kim Grano, and for Steve Helfcott, Mary O'Connor. Welcome all. To start out, let's have the Pledge of Allegiance, and I'll ask Mr. Lumm to lead us.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Going down the agenda, we have no reports from student life of our colleges because they're all on vacation, so we'll give them that. But we do have some awards. I'd like to first bring up Dr. Sherry Olson for Emeritus Awards for South Mountain Community College.
Thank you, President. May I approach the podium?
You may.
Thank you. Tonight, South Mountain, is this test, is that on? Okay. Tonight, South Mountain Community College would like to acknowledge members of our Language Arts Division that have been, that are being recognized for emeritus status from the governing board. And we have 2 of the 3 members with us tonight, so we'll ask to honor the 3rd one next month. First of all, I'd like to call forward Mr. Albert Mendez. Mr. Albert Mendez taught for Maricopa District for 27 years after a 15-year career in the Mesa Public Schools. He started at South Mountain Community College in 1984, just 4 years after we began offering classes as a bilingual instructor in the program for English as a second language. As the college grew, Mr. Mendez began teaching developmental reading and serving on the Reading Instructional Council, where he was integral in the creation of a new course, Critical Reading 101. In the last 10 years of his career at South Mountain, he mainly focused on teaching CRE 101, and it paid off. One of his students was quoted by saying, "It's like a rite of passage. Until you've had that experience, nothing else matters." Mr. Mendez also influenced his colleagues. He was a mentor to many new and seasoned instructors alike and played a significant role in forming the Language Arts Division. He was a peacekeeper and a problem solver. We honor his contribution and thank him for his dedication. Please help me in honoring Mr. Albert Mendez.
Thank you. Thank you. Oh, you want me to?
Yeah.
I've been retired 5 semesters. That's just the way we think. 2.5 years. And the first thing I asked, am I going to say something? And the only thing that comes to mind after 42 years of teaching is always buy manually operated pencil sharpeners. The electric ones don't work, okay? That's it. Thank you.
Next, I'd like to have Dr. Yvonne Montiel join me at the podium. Dr. Yvonne Montiel taught with the Maricopa District for 24 years, first at Gateway Community College and joined South Mountain in 1989. She taught all levels of reading as well as courses in education. Among her many achievements, Dr. Montiel earned a Maricopa Institute for Learning Fellowship, a NYSOD Teaching Excellence Award, and was part of a team that won the Maricopa Innovation of the Year Award in 1996 for the Dynamic Learning Program. A comprehensive model for systemic education reform in the community college using brain research and leading educational theory. This program was the first in the district to have an articulated transfer agreement with ASU's College of Education. The program reflected the transactional nature of learning and teaching and allowed students to move seamlessly from the Maricopa experience to ASU's program to earn a bachelor's degree in teacher education. In 2002, this program earned the attention and the visit from the U.S. Undersecretary of Education, Eugene Highcock. In addition to her academic contributions, Dr. Montiel was well known for serving on committees and boards both at the college and in the community. to include the City of Phoenix South Mountain Village Planning Committee, the SMCC Wellbeing Initiative, the SMCC Maricopa Capital Campaign, the Commission on Appellate Court Appointment, and the City of Phoenix Library Advisory Board. Finally, Dr. Montiel was and still remains a well-liked and well-respected colleague and friend who still visits campus frequently and she is currently our retired faculty member who's helping us in our foundation campaign, as well as Yvonne is known to introduce green smoothies to the South Mountain Community College employees and students, and she actually had this past year got student government involved, and they were actually making green smoothies on a health campaign with Yvonne. So she's still with us.
I just simply want to say that I feel very fortunate to have worked with the Maricopa Community College system. My work as a teacher, a faculty member, was very, very critical, very important to my life and my family's life. And again, I thank you for the opportunity to work with you. Thank you.
Thank you. Next on the agenda, Dr. Pan has the floor for about an hour.
Thank you, sir. May I also preach?
You may.
Oh, dear. Thank you. President Saar, members of the Governing Board, Chancellor Glasper, CC, colleagues, and audience. This is not good. We're losing too many great people retiring. Mesa Community College, we also have 3 outstanding faculty members decided to open a new chapter in their life retiring. One of them is with us. Let me invite Professor Francis Eileen Armstrong. Please join me at the podium. Eileen joined our district in 1989 for 25 years. She served as a faculty member in the business department, give considerable contribution to serving students, serving the community. In many other ways beyond teaching, she truly devoted herself in helping, serving students and the institution in many different ways. For example, she served as a advisor for Phi Delta Kappa International Honor Society, was one of the early pioneers to connect to ASU WP Carey School of Business, led the original framework for articulation map program with ASU. She served also as a department chair for the business department, authored 2 books and 2 articles, including 2 articles in the Vision, that is our district journal of teaching and learning. She was awarded she was the recipient of Innovator of the Year for the League of Innovations in the Community Colleges. 11 years ago, when considering building Red Mountain, Eileen was on the original design team. So as you can see, she not only is a scholar, an educator in heart, but truly served the community in many ways. So tonight, we'd like to recommend her for your consideration. Thank you for your many years of service to the district, please.
Thank you, Dr. Pan.
Thank you. It has been a pleasure to teach the wonderful and diverse student population that we have in the Maricopa Community Colleges. I appreciate the opportunity that I've had to teach in this district and the wonderful experiences. The students have been everything. I am honored that I've been able to help hundreds of those students pursue their dreams, and I'm honored tonight to receive this award, and I will add it to my collection of my most treasured rewards from teaching, which are the numerous letters, cards, emails that I have received every single semester since I started teaching from students thanking me for helping them with their post-MCC education as well as their careers, and many of them are still in contact with me today. So that has been a great pleasure. And I would like to thank a former colleague of mine, Melissa Turnbull, for being here tonight. I could not have done it without her expertise on the student services side at MCC, and that has been a wonderful relationship as well. So thank you, Governing Board and Dr. Pam, and the Maricopa community.
Thank you. Dr. Pan, you got the next one too?
They are not able to join us, so we'll make sure the documents get sent to them.
These are the PTK.
Oh, yes. Oh, okay. So I thought we were talking. Yes,
We'll move
it
along.
is truly a pleasure to let me invite. Why don't you come, Dwayne Oaks, introduce your student leaders to share the accomplishments our Omicron Beta chapter of PDK accomplished in 2014. Please.
Thank you. President Saar, members of the board, Chancellor Glasper, members of the CEC, and guests. My name is Ricky Ledesma. I am this year's president for the Omicron Beta chapter of Phi Theta Kappa at Mesa Community College. This is Valerie LeGrand. She is our membership and recruitment officer. She was an officer on last year's team, and she is also a current regional officer for the Arizona region this year. We would just like to go through and highlight some of the successes we had through our projects and how we were able to help our college and help our community. I'd like to start by saying what Phi Theta Kappa has done for me personally. My brother just this May graduated from Columbia University and was given that opportunity because of the doors that Phi Theta Kappa opened for him, and it inspired me to go back to school. That's my younger brother. Phi Theta Kappa is the International Honor Society. Is recognized by the American Association of Community Colleges as the official honor society for two-year colleges. And we live around 4 hallmarks. Everything we do is based around scholarship, leadership, service, and fellowship. Now, in addition to that, we do have 2 major projects every year. The first one is our college project, and the purpose is to connect us with the administration on our campus. So what we do is we meet early on during the summertime before the next academic year, and we find a need together on campus, and then we try to address that need. And last year, we found that many developmental math students were failing, a large number, above 50%, and then their second go at it, it was above 70%. So we put together a project where, first of all, we would help connect these students to the resources available to them on campus, for example, tutoring. And then also we became student mentors, where we were actually in the classroom and during their work time gave more connection, and we were able to help the students when the teachers could only be helping a certain amount at a certain time. And through that work, we were recognized at the regional level and at the international level. We won awards for both for that project. And our second project is the Honors in Action project, where the college project we find a need on campus, and Honors in Action we find a need in the community. And Valerie's going to talk about our project last year for Honors in Action.
Thank you. My name is Valerie LeGrand. I am, again, from Mesa Community College. And one of the unique opportunities is that we do get to work outside of the college as well into the community. And we find, and we research, and we find a need within the community, and then we build a project around that. One of the things we found out this year was that human trafficking was a huge issue in Arizona because of the upcoming Super Bowl. And what we found is that it brings tens of thousands of girls every year, any major sporting event. And so what we decided to do is bring awareness to that issue. And so we decided to do a week-long campaign through that, and we focused on the community. We rented out a theater, and we did a showing of a documentary, and we also went and partnered with some of the other community colleges in the area, and we did a panel presentation where we had officers come in from the Phoenix Police Department, as well as House representatives, along with some of the victims and advocates that deal with this issue on a daily basis. And we also did another viewing on both the Southern and Dobson campus and the Red Mountain campus for the students to inform them as well. And the last thing we did is we went and we presented at the Arizona Summit and talked to educators and stuff on that matter as well. And one of the unique things, because of that, we received our Regional Honors and Action Project Award the Action Theme Award, the Action 3 Award at a regional level, and then at the International Honors and Action Project Award as well. And one of the unique opportunities is that this has given me such an amazing opportunity. It has opened so many doors, and because of this project, I have now changed my major into social work, and it has made a huge difference in my own life today.
One of the most important things that we strive for as a team, and this is definitely most important to our team and to our advisors as well, is the Distinguished Officer Team Award, and we were able to win this again last year. And this really highlights how the officer team can come. With such a big officer team, we have one of the largest officer teams in the society. And this highlights how we can come together and grow as a team and get work done throughout the whole year. And we won that both on the regional and the international level. And for our chapter as a whole, on the regional level, we won Most Distinguished Chapter. And internationally, we were 4th finalist for Most Distinguished Chapter out of nearly 1,300 chapters in the world. After winning the Most Distinguished Chapter 2 years in a row, the 3rd year, you're up for a new award, which we were able to take home this year as well, and that's the Beta Alpha Continued Excellence Award. We were also the #3 fundraising chapter for Relay for Life. We raised $10,500 last year. We won the Distinguished College Administrator Award for Dr. James Mabry, who is our Vice President of Academic Affairs. Dwayne Oakes, who's here with us today, won a Continued Excellence Award, and that just shows his commitment to our chapter throughout the years. Ed Lipinski is an advisor at our Red Mountain campus. He was also recognized. He was on the regional level for Most Distinguished Advisor. Monica Pershafi was recognized on the regional and international level for the Paragon Advisor Award. That's for new advisors up and coming to help our chapter. We also, Ryan McConaughey, president from last year on the regional level, received Hall of Honor for Most Distinguished Officer, and Michelle Kameni, the vice president of our Red Mountain campus, was recognized on the international level for Most Distinguished Officer.
And then also, before he was our president, he was our distinguished chapter member, and that's based on a student who's not quite an officer yet. Shows an outstanding example of that. And he's now our student. And as Phi Theta Kappas, we're also offered a lot of scholarships. Because we're Phi Theta Kappas, we have over $87 million scholarships. And we have $37.5 million in transfer scholarships available, and that's for over 700 colleges. Last year we had the Coca-Cola Leaders of Promise Scholarship. We had 2 recipients, Karina Aguilar Velasquez and Giovanni Hernandez, and those both received a $1,000 scholarship.
And Valerie LeGrand here also won the Geico Pathway to Completion Scholarship for $1,000. We also had 4 members of the All Arizona Academic Team. And this is big because they not only win a scholarship, but they also win a tuition waiver to any of the 3 top Arizona universities. We have Ryan McConaughey and Courtney Yorba Moore, who won the 3rd team All Arizona Academic Team, and Heather Smythe and Michelle Kameni won 1st team.
And one of the unique advantages is once they're placed up for that award, they're also placed up for several other awards. And for the first time in many, many years, our Michelle Kameni won the All-USA Community College. She won 1st team, which that is out of the top 20 students in the 2-year colleges. And she was also recognized for her academic achievements and her community service. She also was placed up for the Geisweit, which was a $5,000 scholarship. And We had a brand new Heights scholarship as well this year for the first time at Mesa Community College. We had someone win the Heights, which is a $7,500 scholarship. And he was our 2013 graduation speaker, as well as our Honors and Action Officer. And for the first time as well at Mesa Community College, we had a Jack Kent Cook recipient, and that's $90,000 in scholarships to complete an undergraduate and $50,000 scholarship to complete a master's degree, which is huge.
Also on last year's team, we had 3 of our chapter members serve on the regional level. We had Heather Smythe was our regional president, Michelle Kameni was the vice president of administration, and Jonathan Talos was the vice president of fundraising. And this year we also have 3 members of our chapter serving on the regional level as well, and one of them is Valerie here. So we just wanted to take this time to show you what we did over the year, and we're excited to come see you next year after the international conference in San Antonio, and hopefully share with you our successes throughout the year. And once again, thank you for your support. We rely on that so that we can get everything that we do done.
Before we, could I have all the people that are holding all those awards stand up and
This is also our current officer. This is many of our current officer team for this year.
congratulations to all of
Can
you.
you introduce yourself?
My name is Casey Campbell. I'm the Current College Project Officer.
I'm Jedediah Weinke, last year's Tempe Event Officer. My name is Sean West. I'm Vice President of Southern and Dallas State. I'm Omar Loza, and I'm Current Community Service Officer.
My name is Leanne Counselor. I'm Finance Officer. And I'm Kristen Franco. I'm one of their advisors, actually.
You need more to hold the awards. I'm wondering which award you didn't get.
So is everybody else, I think.
Congratulations again. That's awesome.
Thank you.
Very impressive. Very good job.
And so I'm sorry, Mr. President, with your permission, may we be excused so that we can get back to our classwork?
In 1 second.
Yes. Mr. Chairman, I want to point out Dwayne Oakes, the advisor. I've known him for years. He worked in service learning, but has a new title now. But he's had an exemplary program at Mesa Community College on volunteerism and service learning, and just another example of his great leadership there. Appreciate it.
Thank you. And all students are always excused at any point.
I'd also like to congratulate. It looks like we're losing a lot of valuable people to Mr. Hernandez, Mr. Montero, Mr. Easton. Thank you and for years of service, and look forward to you still welcoming you back and contributing to our college.
Thank you. Moving along on the agenda for Citizens Interim, we have nobody signed up for speaking tonight, so we'll avoid all that reading. We now move to the agenda, and the approval of the agenda is recommended. Is there a motion?
I move approval.
Second.
Yeah, the motion has been made and seconded. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say nay. We are approving the agenda. Let the minutes show that 2 of our board members are not with us tonight. They are out of town, and we wish them well in their travels, but they'll be back. On the consent agenda, does anyone wish to remove any of the items from the consent agenda tonight?
No, I
Move approval.
Second.
Motion made and seconded to approve the consent agenda. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
And all those opposed say nay. Motion passes unanimously. Under the non-consent agenda, first of all, on the Chancellor is approval of authorization to increase for attorney's fees to Wilson, Elsner, Moskowitz, and so forth and so on, and ratification of fees spent.
Mr. Chair, members of the board, can we have just a couple of minutes to
Yes.
connect again with our legal counsel, who I had to cut off because he was too loud?
Sure. While he's doing that, I'll mention, as I do every meeting, that we have 2 meetings a month, and the first meeting of the month is typically the second Tuesday of the month, where we have agenda review, which gives all the board members a chance to ask questions of staff and give them an opportunity to respond to those questions either at that meeting or subsequent to that meeting, which means that we probably have had lots of discussion before we make it to this point. So if it sounds like we're rattling through these things, it's not that we do. We take a lot of time to research and ask questions, and I give staff credit for providing us with those responses.
We're back to your item.
Lee, you're on the item for approval of authorization of increasing attorney's fees to Wilson Elsner and ratification of fees spent.
Lee, can you hear that?
Yes, I did. This item adjusts for an error that I made in calculating the budget that we proposed to you in May. The allocations were off with respect to Wilson Elser because I relied on a spreadsheet that did not contain up-to-date information about accrued but not paid expenses and fees. So this amount that we're asking you to approve today, it accounts for all of the unpaid fees to Wilson Elser, plus a $50,000, approximately $50,000 budget for issues.
Okay.
So what's the amount? I don't have it on my. What's the amount?
What was the total amount, Lee?
I'm having trouble seeing it on my iPad here, the agenda item.
Hang on just a moment.
Maggie, can you help me with this?
Lee, I don't have it in front of me. Thank you.
Maggie, if you still don't have it, I mean, I have the numbers here.
We're asking 58,000 instead of 51,000. Is that correct, Dr. Glassman?
Well, there's an additional 51,000, but there is about $600,000 that was accrued but not presented to the board for payment. So he's asking for the $616,000 to accommodate for the fees incurred. The total dollar amount approved by the board of $2.7 million was revised from 2.7 to the 1.7. But within that, we need to go ahead and pay that $616,000. And then there's an additional $58,000 for attorneys and mediator fees incurred in recent months that was not on the list.
Thank you. Are we in board books?
Yeah. Also like to say that staff has provided us with a spreadsheet, several spreadsheets actually, on the entire legal status of all of our legal issues, and I appreciate that work, because that's it kind of brings us into a better idea of what we're spending, where we're spending it with, and what we got left to spend as we go through this several processes actually.
I will point out, Mr. Chair, that's on page 93 of the board book.
He's got it here.
Yeah, well, I went to the other agenda and it wouldn't open up, so I couldn't, that's why.
Okay.
Thank you. Is there a motion?
I move approval.
Second.
Motion to approve the authorization of increase in attorney's fees to Wilson Elsner and so forth, as well as a ratification of fees spent. Any more discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say nay. Is that an aye?
Aye. Aye.
Motion passes unanimously. Next item on the agenda is the approval of authorization for expenditure under a contract to provide record review services. I believe Lee is on that too?
Yes, Lee, would you introduce the second item on the authorization for Riley Carlock and Applewhite?
Yes. President Saar, members of the board, Chancellor Glasper, this agenda item is an effort, represents an effort on our part to save expenses of the e-discovery process. This firm provides legal review of documents for the issues that may result in an exception to disclosure for such issues as privilege, security and such issues as that. These lawyers specialize in this type of document review and work at a much lower cost. Their role will be to flag issues under the instruction of the Greenberg Traurig discovery team, and to bring them to the team's attention if any document raises an issue. The ultimate decision, of course, will be made by Greenberg Traurig as to whether the document can be disclosed. But this would save substantially on the cost of document review, because we won't be using the Greenberg Traurig legal counsel at higher cost.
Thank you. Do I hear a motion?
I move approval.
I'm not sure what we're voting on. I don't understand.
Do you have this?
No. Here, that's it. I have to go down 100 pages to get there.
Me do. This is really a transfer, if I'm reading it correct, from one of our authorizations to a new one, which is actually less expensive for the same services. Does that make sense, Lee?
The amount is within the budget proposed for the overall litigation through August.
Mr. President.
Yes, ma'am.
Members of the board. This really is part of our Greenberg Traurig team strategy. We have significant number of records, hundreds of thousands probably of them, that need to be sorted through. And as part of their attempt to reduce the cost to us, this team of lawyers will be examining those records for first blush to take those that we don't want to disclose for whatever reason. Either they're privileged, attorney-client privileged, or they're just not properly disclosable, because doing so would make us more likely to be breached in the future. So this is just part of the overall Greenberg Traurig strategy. We're not really transferring anything over. This is part of.
Okay.
They searched for this firm and they found it, and looked for a very good price in terms of getting us this service.
So this firm charges less than the restated contract, and we're saving money by doing this?
President Saar, Mr. Lumm, members of the board, yes, it does.
Thank you.
We have a motion. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Any more discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion passes unanimously. Number 3, under the Chancellor's, is approval of extension of contract for web remediation consulting services.
Mr. Saar, members of the board, I'd like to ask Ed Kelty to come forward and present the next 2 items.
Good evening, Mr. President, members of the board, CEC, and guests. I hope these are 2 easy ones. The first one, Eagle Creek, the VA3, is no change whatsoever to the contract or funding. It's just a change in the end date. The original end date that we had on the contract was actually December of 2013, even though in November I came and requested funding to extend their work for this entire year. So this is just a minor adjustment, so the end date is the end of this calendar year. That's all it is.
Okay.
Move approval.
Second.
Motion is made and seconded. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of approval of extension of contract for web remediation consulting services, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion passes unanimously. Next for Mr. Kelty is approval of extension of contract for web security consulting services.
Again, I hope this one is pretty simple. Bishop Fox has been assisting Maricopa in our security efforts and remediation. This is an extension of their contract at the end of this calendar year, as well as a minor change in their scope of work to help us coordinate activities across any other vendors that may be assisting us with the security efforts.
Budget-wise?
No change in the budget this time.
Do I hear a motion?
I move we approve.
Second.
Motion has been made and seconded for the approval of extension of contract for web security consulting services. Any more discussion?
No.
All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed, nay. Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you.
Number 5 under the item is approval of proposed revision to 4.9 board committee structure. And I'll take the reins on this as soon as I pull it up. We have suggested 6 different subcommittees that have been suggested for the board and members of staff. The board chair would assign the members of the board to those committees, and the chancellor would assign appropriate staff to those same committees. Under our policies, we have the need to identify these specifically in policy. We've had a first read of this policy in prior meetings. Now we are going to vote on each of these to determine if the board members here present tonight feel that this is an appropriate time to establish one or all of these particular subcommittees. So we'll take them in order. There are 6 altogether, and we'll have 6 separate votes. The first one is a subcommittee for board and chancellor evaluation. Any member want to talk about the reason for that?
I do. Mr. Chairman, I've had some second thoughts about committees. I will support 2, but I think the board and chancellor evaluation is the work of the whole board. And I'm uncomfortable with a smaller group of the board coming with recommendations for the whole board. And I move that we not approve the board and chancellor evaluation committee.
I'll second for discussion purposes. My thought on this committee was not to do the evaluation.
No.
But to review the documentation that we've used in the past for both the board and the chancellor evaluations. And it's really more of a process than it is the actual evaluation for either part.
Well,
You want to change the name then?
no.
Evaluation process?
But I think the chair has that function. The chair gathers materials and presents them to the board.
Currently we have some forms that we use for both. And the thought of this committee was we review those forms to make sure they're still relevant.
Again, I think the board needs to do that.
Okay, all right. So the motion is not to establish a subcommittee on board and chancellor evaluation. Any more comments? Hearing none, all those in favor of the motion say aye.
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 The motion passes unanimously. The next item is board policy. Do I hear a motion?
Mr. Chairman, I vote that we not have a board policy subcommittee. I feel very strongly that all policy issues ought to be dealt with by the full board.
I'll second that for discussion purposes. It's hard for a whole board to spend the kind of time I think is going to be required for this. Not that the board hasn't spent enough time already on everything else we do, but my thought for this committee was that it's just a means of hashing over some of the policies that we currently have, including the mission, vision, and so forth, and bring the discussion and maybe some recommendations to the full board at some point in the future. So that's where I'm coming from on this one.
I understand. I can understand where that might be efficient, but I think that the full board loses out on the discussions if a small number are fashioning the information coming to the full board. I believe that the full board has responsibility for policy.
Well, I totally agree, but this is going to be a 7-member board here, not the too distant future. And my thought is that if we can do a lot of the work and bring to the board some thoughts about our current policies and maybe suggestions on changes to those, that we can become more efficient process of establishing our policies.
I move that we have a board policy committee.
Well, we got a motion and a second, so let's take a vote on that, and then we can, if it doesn't pass, we'll have
the motion
second.
to.
Well, I don't know that efficiency is the most important issue here. People who are elected to the board have to commit themselves to certain work. Board policy is the most important thing that we do, and I think every board member needs to be involved in all of the discussions about board policy. I cannot imagine a small group doing that work for the whole board and the whole board missing out on the discussion.
Well, I would hope that in the information that committee brings to the board, that discussion is brought to the whole board, at least in summary form.
in my experience, when a committee brings something to a whole board, there is, I'm not sure that there is encouragement for widespread thinking among the other board members. They are limited somewhat to the recommendations brought to them. I think that there is an inherent danger in the whole board losing focus of their responsibility.
I hear. We'll call for the question. And the question is not to establish a subcommittee on board policy. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay.
Nay.
Nay. That motion does not pass.
I move we have a policy on board committee. I mean, committee on board policy.
Thank you. I'll second it.
The reason I say that, and I appreciate what Doyle's saying, and the whole board does need to be part of it. But when we're looking at all the policies and we're saying, are these updated? Do they need to be reviewed? Do they need to be updated? And then someone brings that to the board for discussion. I think it's just helpful to have someone paying attention to that, and we're really focused on it, because we haven't been, unless we put it into more agendas and we're staying here, you know, to midnight focusing on that. I don't think we're getting the work done. I think this is an important area, and I think we need to spend more time on it. And the way we spend more time on it is by having a committee look at it and then bringing it to the full board. No action will be done without the full board approval. If the committee is somehow not helpful, then I think we'll dissolve it, but I think we should give it a try.
You know, I'm on the national committee for community colleges, and we have, you know, a 17-member board. Subcommittees on that really are the basis for how we get things done. But the whole board votes on every recommendation that's made, and there's still plenty of discussion amongst the whole board before we get to that vote. So I just think this is an opportunity for us to try the subcommittee process, and the board policy area is one of those areas where I think we can do the most amount of effort and still accomplish what we need to. I agree that the policies are what we do best, and what we do is our most important responsibility as a board. So
I just think even if we approve this, that we instead of come back and put a purpose and goals and vision on the committee at tasks, so their scope is specific and not
you bring up a good point.
So broad that we're out of direction and we're out of our area.
My thought after the process of determining which subcommittees to establish, the next thing the board as a whole does is put those together. Hearing no more discussion, we'll call for a vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed?
No.
Motion passes on a 2-to-1. Next is the Budget and Finance Committee. Do I hear a motion?
I move approval.
Second.
Budget and Finance Committee has been made motion and seconded. Any discussion on what your thoughts are on this one?
I think the budget and finance is very complex and very. I think committee would be helpful in keeping an eye on how expenditures are done and that. And I still think the goal and vision is just kind of to bring information about anything current that the board needs to be updated on. I don't think it's a management committee. We just need to define our goals on it.
I agree. Hearing no more discussion, all those in favor say aye.
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 Aye. Motion passes unanimously. Next item, the item is charter schools.
I move approval.
Second.
You want to take this?
Yeah, I'd like to see that we pay more attention to our charter schools. I was on an K-8 charter school, and I know you were on a K-12 charter school, public school, and I think we need to give more attention to that. I think we need the more supportive of the school and what they need, and someone needs to be visible and showing support not only for the, of course, the administrators, but also the parents and the community, and the charter school needs to reflect the community that it serves.
I'm interested in this one because I think it is a way for the board to show commitment to the charter schools. I think we may overlook them, perhaps. So this is a commitment on our part to work with them.
I concur with what both of them said. We got our two charter school administrators sitting out in the audience, and I think it's not that, my mind, again, the scope of this committee will be just like the rest, will be established by the full board, but I think we have two excellent charter schools, and I think they deserve as much as we can give them in terms of support.
Third coming.
A third coming, that's right. So we're on our way, but it gives us a chance to be more involved without having to have 7 people always involved in it. Hearing the motion first made and seconded, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Passes unanimously. The fifth one is Subcommittee on Human Resources.
I move that we do not approve this committee.
Second.
Motions are made and seconded.
Yes. I don't, I'm not sure I see the need for the committee. We have a policy in which we direct the chancellor in the treatment of employees and students. That is our policy. Not sure how we can improve on that. And it's the chancellor's job to work with administrators, faculty, and staff and employees to make sure that employees, have a good place to work. So I can't imagine what kind of policies we would come up with in terms of human relations. That's the chancellor's job.
I wouldn't know the scope of the task of the committee.
We know we can
have some ideas on it. I don't know what your thoughts on it.
I tend to agree with Doyle. I think this is one that we maybe look down the road if these subcommittees are working well or not. We can revisit this committee or others. Mm-hmm. But I would concur with you. The vote is to not, at this point, form the Human Resources Subcommittee. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion passes unanimously. Finally is a Subcommittee on Information Technology. I hear a motion.
I move that we do not approve this committee.
Second.
Motions are made and seconded. Discussion?
Yes. Just as with HR, I'm not sure what we would be doing in terms of making policies for instructional technology. You have some background in IT. None of the rest of us does. So not sure what I could come up with in terms of policy. The chancellor has responsibility for programs, for resources. That's the chancellor's job. He hires people to do that work, and I don't know that we need to be making policies about the operation.
I try to keep informed on that, and it's difficult, and I think it's something the full board needs to be discussing. I'm not sure how the scope of the committee would be. If I understood that more, I would. I feel the same with the human resource. I need to be more informed on it, yes. The scope and how to do it in committee, I'm not sure what the purpose of the committee would be.
I could bore that committee to tears with stuff. So I'll call for the vote. All those in favor of not forming the Information Technology Committee, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion fails. Motion passes unanimously. That's the 6 that we have on the agenda for tonight. I appreciate the comments by the board, and the next step will be to take the 2 or 3 that we've established and to come up with the scope of the committee's charge. Thank you. Next is under business services, the adoption of the Gateway Early College High School proposed budget for 2014 and 2015. Is that yours?
That's mine.
All right.
President Saar and members of the board, this is the proposed budget for the fiscal year 14-15 for Gateway Early College High School. It is based on an average daily membership of 265 students, which is slightly higher than fiscal year 14. This budget is substantially the same as the preliminary budget that was adopted at the board's June 12th meeting. This is the final step in the budget process for the charter school, and we recommend adoption of this final budget for fiscal year 15.
Thank you, Ms. Farrell.
I move we approve this item.
Second.
Motion has been made and seconded. Any discussion by the board?
Yes, when we were at agenda review, we had reports from both charter schools, and I'll say this about both of them. We had really good reports, so proud of those charter schools, and just wanted to make that compliment to both.
I'll back you up on that. Just for the record, the total budget for the Gateway Early College High School is in the amount of $2,116,516. Any more discussion? All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed, nay. Motion passes unanimously. Next item from Ms. Granio is the adoption of the Phoenix College Preparatory Academy proposed budget for fiscal year 14 and 15.
President Saar and members of the board, this is the proposed budget for fiscal year 14-15 for Phoenix College Preparatory Academy in the total amount of $720,816. It is based on an average daily membership of 90 students, which is an increase of 23 students over fiscal year 14. This budget is substantially the same as the preliminary budget that was approved at the board's June 12th meeting. And again, this is the final step in the budget process for the charter school, and we recommend adoption of this final budget for fiscal year 15.
Thank you.
Move approval.
Second.
Motion is made and seconded. Discussion? I'll just add the amount for this school is $720,816. And I just mentioned that both of these charter schools currently have waiting lists. Am I still correct on that? Which is totally amazing, especially in the Phoenix College Prep, because we've had trouble filling that, and now we have people standing in line. So congratulations to your staff and yourselves as well. Hearing no more discussion, all those in favor of the budget as stated, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion passes unanimously. Now you can go study. First reading items tonight under Human Resources, review of the proposed residential faculty policy manual for 2014-2015.
Yes, President Saar, members of the board, good evening. This is the first read for the fiscal year 15 residential faculty policy. It contains updates to terminology as well as removal of outdated language and new policy language. It has been vetted through the meet and confer process, which consists of faculty and administration, and has been ratified by the Faculty Association. As such, we recommend approval.
Thank you. Do I hear a motion?
Do we have a motion?
Is this the first reading?
Oh, first, you're right. This is first reading. Any comments from the board?
None.
My only comment, I read it all, first of all.
Jeez.
It's been a boring couple weeks here, but, but well done, well done. My only comment is, something that's that large and that detailed, I was looking for the purpose. Now, it's implied, obviously, but it'd be nice to have a paragraph up in front. This is why we have this document, but that's just a suggestion.
Absolutely,
And
good suggestion.
The changes that were made were well thought out, and I know that there's a step, and then you were still working on other things, so I appreciate the time and effort that staff has put into this, and we look forward to having this on the agenda at our next meeting for approval.
Absolutely,
Well,
thank
this
you.
is an important document for us. I mean, if for some reason we have to have a rift, it sets the policy and how we go about doing that, and so we need faculty concurrence on this and buy-in. I think faculty is the main essence of why we're here. I mean, if it wasn't for the faculty, we wouldn't need a board, we wouldn't need administrators here. The action is in the classroom, and we want to treat our faculty with respect, and they are the expertise in the area they teach, and so it's an important document, and I'm glad faculty has approved it.
Yes, they've done an outstanding job this year in the meet and confer.
Okay. Move on to the next one. Ms. Shelton-Johnson, you have a discussion on the review of proposed staff policy manual for 14 and 15.
Okay, President Saar, members of the board, this is also the first read for the fiscal year 15 staff policy manual. It also contains updates to terminology and removal of outdated language. Policy language updates are also contained in the appendices. The policy manual has been vetted through the All-CPD, which is the Collaborative Policy Development Group, which consists of representatives from each of the 5 employee groups and administration. The appendices and the manual have been ratified by the respective employee groups.
Comments from the board?
What were some of the things you saw as needed changing and updating, and what kind of direction are you trying to take our human resources? And this is your basic document, right, for policy?
Pardon?
This is your basic document for guidance for policy for human resources, right?
It governs the employment cycle, yes.
So what is your vision of that?
Well,
and with this document?
I'm hopeful that we'll continue the work of focusing on one Maricopa workforce in terms of consistency with our different processes, with room, of course, for flexibility based on the unique nature of the employee group. And that work has already started in a very meaningful way in terms of having the collaborative policy development. There are some other process-related things that could use some language clarification. Also, some consideration in terms of potential unintended consequences with regard to implementing some of those processes. So I look forward to being able to move that forward in this coming year, again, with having that focus on the one Maricopa workforce.
Thank you. You know, I of course want to make sure that our policy is followed for every employee, regardless of their grievance. You know, even if there's a teacher that needs replacing, they have a right for hearing and grievings and a fair process. And so, I hope this works, and I welcome you, and I look forward to many good years and having a fair process for all employees.
As do I. Thank you.
I was just thinking, a year or so ago, we celebrated 50 years. And what we're seeing in terms of policy manuals has been in process for that period of time. And I think, I feel good about this district. First of all, that employees are involved in the development of the policy manuals. They are heard. And the policies change over the years as issues come forth. So I'm proud of the district for the process and for the product.
And my question, if I'm right, between these two documents, we cover all district employees? Or is there a group that's not included into these two different policy groups?
They should all be covered. I'm going to defer to my colleague Jim Bowers to make sure that I'm not speaking outside of school.
Okay.
Mr. President, members of the board, CEC, these two manuals cover a substantial majority of our employees. The only employees who are not covered by these two documents would be our specially funded employees and our temporary employees and our adjunct faculty who have their own document. And specially funded have their own document also, but these cover a substantial majority of our folks.
And those other two documents that aren't part of these two, are they being reviewed? Is that in the process?
That will be that's the next step. We've focused on this and trying to get these changes done and to you, and those two documents then will follow up. The changes in those were less, not less important, but less time sensitive in regard to a couple of the changes that we did need to make in regard to the Affordable Care Act.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. And now we have so we have 4 policy manuals that in some cover all of our employees.
Correct.
Except us.
Policy. Policy covers us.
Oh, okay. All right. Any more comments on the manual? Thank you very much, and congratulations to all those involved. I know I haven't read the second one yet, but I will before our next meeting. Next item is the monitoring reports. The budget analysis report summary for Fund 1, the general unrestricted fund for the 11 months ending May 31st, 2014. Ms. Cronio.
President Saar and members of the board, this is the budget analysis report for the general fund through May 31st of 2014. Expenditure analysis indicates 77.5% of the budget has been expended this year to date as compared to 80.5% expended at the same point last year. 13.3% of the budget remains unexpended or unencumbered compared to 12.6% in the prior year. Revenue analysis indicates that 95.6% of the budget has been recognized as compared to 97.3% in the prior years, and the ending fund balance is projected to increase by approximately $3.6 million to about $163.6 million at the end of June or June 30th of 2014.
So our fiscal year ends the end of this month, in other words.
Yes, it does. Next week.
Which is a reminder for everybody to get in their paperwork.
That's right.
Thank you very much. And I want to say, we get paper and files of these reports, and on a regular basis, monthly, and in some cases quarterly, but you know, we've gotten accolades from all of our auditors and others involving our financial reporting, and I commend your whole staff for the work that they do.
Thank you very much.
And the budget committee's people as well. So. Moving on to governing board reports, Mr. Burke.
Let's see, I went to, Mr. Lumm and I attended an audit and finance committee in June, but there were relatively few responsibilities other than that.
That time of year. Mr. Lumm?
No report.
I attended a GPEC meeting. I somehow ended up as an ambassador for the GPEC group, and it was a very interesting meeting, and it was represented there by our corporate college staff, and they did an excellent job of explaining how the corporate college will work with others in the valley to improve the economic vitality of our state and county. We've been heavily involved in lots of preparation for meetings coming up, and I'm looking forward to the month of July where I can go on vacation. Chancellor's report, Dr. Glasper.
Mr. Saar, members of the board, I too am looking forward to the month of July so I can go on vacation. Today I was at the foundation and I had an opportunity to share with them some of the community work that I've been doing relative to the $50 million capital campaign that we have. And some of the things that I will say are of surprise to many in our community. I gave the board a document, and we can make this available. I believe CEC has one as well. But this is a two-page fact sheet which talks about One Maricopa, Arizona's education and training partner. What I have found in the last, I would say, 5 months to 6 months is that we are loved considerably out in our community, but we are loved for the most part individually and not collectively. We are still not recognized as we should be in terms of a district, and the message that I am receiving from community leaders and others is that we need to do a better job of branding ourselves as a system and talking about the work that we do in our community. What you have in terms of some of the information on the fact sheet is about our transfer, our economic impact to our community. On an annual basis, we provide in excess of $3 billion in terms of an economic impact in the state of Arizona. We have on a biweekly basis $17.4 million payroll. And when you look at what we're doing in the major areas that are within our outcomes, transfer students, developmental ed students, occupational, civic and community engagement, we are far-reaching in many parts of our community. And as I go through and talk to our CEOs, what I'm hearing is that we are doing a good job. What I'm also hearing and what they're saying is that they would like to do more with us, but many do not know what is being offered by some of our sister colleges. And as we move to the corporate college, that will address, in terms of a one-stop approach, a better outreach in terms of our corporate community and our non-credit community. However, as we look at the opportunities for us to increase our credit enrollment, it's very important for us to understand what's going on out in the industry. Within the last few months, I've also had an opportunity to visit with allied health groups, with manufacturing, and I've also started taking some tours of manufacturing facilities. I have visited a 12,000 square foot manufacturing facility. I visited a 200,000 square foot manufacturing facility. And when you look at that environment, and it's starting to change, it's starting to come back, And many of us will probably think that it is a dirty environment. It is an environment that, because of the work that they do, that it is not a clean environment. But I would argue with you and challenge you to walk into some of these facilities and just see how clean it has to be, so that even a speck is not on any of these particular pieces that may move into an artillery machine gun or rifle that's going to be used by the military, or some type of telescope, and that the work that they're doing are small parts that may cost $300 to a large piece that may cost $60, but they're all working with aviation industry, avionics, and others. And in visiting with them, they have challenged us to look at a one Maricopa approach to our advisory committees as they relate to our corporate training. They would like to have an opportunity to come to one central meeting so they can listen among the 10 different advisory groups as to what's going on in the industry. They do it within themselves, but they think that we would have a better product if we were to have one advisory committee on workforce rather than 10. They also are asking us to consider a regional center of excellence as it relates to manufacturing. One where we can sustain the most current up-to-date equipment and not be in a position such as many of our colleges are. And we recognize in the last 7 years we have had no additional state capital funding since it was eliminated approximately 7 years ago. And we've just had an additional $1.4 million added to our budgets. But the likelihood of us advancing our resources and capital are going to be small. We sold our last portions of the bond referendum last spring. So the $951 million will be gone, and we are off cycle to have a bond referendum in 2014. And we are rapidly moving past the notion of 2016 and most likely looking at 2018. And there are a lot of challenges with that. If we are going to be the #1 provider of allied health training, nursing training, teacher training, police and fire and others, we need to have resources that allow us to be up to date in terms of our technology and others. And we're spending considerable resources around technology now, but we will have to spend even more in the future. So as we look at this $50 million campaign, I will tell you that it is not the last, and it is one that we need to look at differently. And when I was interviewing many of these presidents, we talked about an opportunity to become a fundraiser at about the 5% level. And they know that that number has rapidly creeped up to 10% and 15%, and most likely in the next 3 to 5 years will be closer to 40 to 50%. And what does that mean in terms of the jobs that they were hired to do and the jobs that we need to do in order to get new resources? One of the things that I'm asking each of our presidents to think about as they work with our community leaders is that we are being told that we are too humble. We are not telling our story, and we need to spend resources in the area of marketing, and we need to spend resources enhancing our public relations. And it's not that we aren't doing it now, but we are not doing it at a point where people recognize the branding and the opportunities within the Maricopa community colleges. And they argue in a positive manner that if we should do so, that it would bring added resources and added opportunities to our community colleges. One of the things that I am selling as I go out and talk to our corporate partners, and when I talk about selling, it's that we are asking for contributions, but most of our business and industry people will give us resources in the $10,000 to $20,000 for a particular project or something. But what they are looking for and what I'm asking for is a longer-term partner, a partner that talks about using their professional development resources within our systems, both online and face-to-face. We're talking about partners that allow us to scale up their training across their industry so that they can increase their bottom line by taking over training that they're currently doing in-house, but we can do it tenfold. I'm asking us to think about doing businesses, and as I mentioned earlier, I've shared with them the notion of privatizing portions of our institution, because in the long run, in order for us to be more effective and more efficient to support them, we need to think and act like a business, and we need to be very responsive. But in the long run, as we start looking at what jobs are needed within this community in order for the entire economy to rise, I will tell you the message that I am hearing is that we are the primary player, because we impact so many individuals in so many areas, in so many professions, that if we are not able to scale up, then we will be seeing institutions coming in or students finding other options outside of the state of Arizona, or other folks coming in and trying to take over some of the space. We've already seen some four-year privates come in, but I think you will see more technical programs come in and more technical opportunities for people. But the biggest concern I have is that we have a product that is at a cost that is very reasonable, but if we are not responsive, people will spend 5 times as much or 6 times as much in order to go and get the same services because they can get in and out. I believe that our colleges, that our presidents, that our faculty and our staff are being very responsive, but I am asking them to think about increasing that responsiveness. And I'm also, I had an opportunity just this last week to go out with Dr. Sawley to one of our community leaders in one of our companies here in the Valley that talked to us about how they had to re-image themselves during the recession and how they had to broaden their brand and look in other ways in order to keep their business going, and now their business is thriving. So I'm telling the presidents, I'm giving them a heads up that over the next few months, that as I take these visits, I will be asking each one of you to join me within your own communities as I meet with some of these individuals so that you can talk in a very passionate way about the programs that you have and what you have to offer to your community. I'm also giving that same opportunity and challenge, and it's a challenge because of our calendars, to our board members, of which I'll be talking to as well, and our foundation board members, because they are the community individuals that are peers to other community folks that we talk to, and understand that in the end, we have quite a bit to offer our community, but we need to figure out how we package it, how we demonstrate, and how we show that we are good public stewards. And I throw out 3 numbers, and most of our presidents will know what these numbers are, but I will let the audience kind of think about what the numbers reflect. And they are monies that are spent on marketing by educational institutions here in the Valley. $66 million, $17 million, and less than $3 million, and probably close to 2.2, and guess where we are? So I just leave that as a closing note and open it up for any questions that we may have.
Well, marketing, as far as just like advertising, I think our marketing is one-on-one, is more interactive. We're going to the high schools. We're going to we do invite people in groups, to learn about the college and how to register and stuff like that. Some people need some hand-holding. Some people are just get online and can do it themselves. And I don't know how just advertising and magazines affect that is. I'm sure you have some research on that.
Well, I would proffer to you that it is going to be more than advertising and magazines, and we're now starting to do what many folks are doing, and it's expansion use of social media, but it's also broadening the audience from students, which I think we are doing a pretty good job, and we could probably do much better. But it's looking at the audience, and it's looking at the audience with a purpose. And to me, the purpose is right now, if we're going to embrace this community and corporate partners that we have, we need to market in a way that they see us as their first choice, for education and partnerships, especially in the space that we own. One of the things that we've talked about, and what I've shared in my visits the last 6 months is that Maricopa has this space, and it's this 2-year space. And it's a space that's different from the K-12. It's a space that's different from the 4-year institutions. And we own that space. However, people have taken us for granted. And we have not touted what we can do, and we have not stated that we are the largest provider of teacher education, of teachers in the state of Arizona. And we have not touted the number of allied health workers that we have and the other kinds of partnerships as much as we should. And when people come to us for technical training, they may not think that we can teach them in robotics or in cybersecurity. They may not think that we can train them in other areas. And I guess what I want them to look at us as a full service training provider and give us that option, and I think we can step up. I will tell you, I have been extremely energized, though, with these visits. I have a list of probably about 35 more corporate leaders in the Valley, and we'll be asking them to do a couple of things. First and foremost, I'm asking for money. But in addition to that, if you can't give me money, then you need to be a champion, and if you really believe in what we do, then you need to find ways for us to connect with others in the industry of which we can provide services. In some space, they want 4-year baccalaureates or they want graduate work, and that's not our space. But in the majority of jobs, and when you look at what came out at CNN, and we had this presentation a couple of months ago, I present that Maricopa, we do training in the 9 of the 10 top paying jobs here in the Valley in the space that we own. And the salaries range anywhere from about $55,000 to about $150,000. And when you go along that continuum, there's a lot of individuals that can begin to fill that space and need opportunities. And I think with the work that we're doing, that we're going to have our hands full in the next few months and the next few years.
Councilor, in looking to these industries, do you see opportunities for internships, for example?
Well, that's one of the packages that I'm talking about. And I'll take the manufacturing industry for one. In the manufacturing industry, in the 3 that I visited in the last 3 weeks, they all have one thing in common. Within the next 5 years, 45 to 55% of their workforce will be gone. 45 to 55% of their workforce. So how do we start to work with them? And I went to one, and they have like an 8-station flow where you come in and you work in the receiving, and then you move from receiving to packaging, and you move throughout the organization. I met a gentleman yesterday who just came from the Skills Center, and they talk about this gentleman came from us, went to the Skills Center, got trained, and he was and he is about 19 years old. He's 19 years old, and he came to them, and now he's running one of the big CNC machines. And he is making a wage now that is probably in excess of about $50,000. The problem is that they can't keep them long enough, because as they start getting training, they move up to different companies. So the other thing that I submitted a proposal the other day, and when I talk about the space, it's that 8 to 10 technicians for every PhD and MD, and that's on this sheet, that is in the bioscience space, that is in our nursing offices and such. They need between 8 and 12 technicians, and we provide those individuals. And what I'm asking for is, if you can't give me resources today, can you give me resources that would allow you to accept faculty internships, faculty externships, and student internships and such that will be committed to our institutions for a minimum of 10 years, so that we will have an opportunity to scale up those opportunities for our faculty and students and staff. And they're open to that. Dr. Lara is working with the folks out at Palo Verde, and they have similar statistics in terms of retirement. So as we're working through the energy piece, and the same with APS and SRP, is that we're talking about stackable credentials, and I believe I mentioned this before. The stackable credentials of an individual coming in as a line worker and desiring or having no desire to become an engineer, but within about 8 steps, they can come in and out of the workplace and have a livable wage, and that wage increases, their credential increases each year, and they can transfer to a 4-year institution. So that's all part of what we're offering when I go out, and it's resonating with people as well.
That's awesome stuff. Thank you so much. We'll give you the same amount of time next week.
Well, there's some odds for my president if I would be done early enough to see who wins the wager on how soon we get out of here.
We mess that up as much as we can.
I did my best. I was trying to.
Next on the agenda is a presentation headed by Mr. Alberto Elias on voter registration and voter data from Maricopa Community College students. Alberto.
President Saar, members of the board, Chancellor Glasper, CEC, and members of the public, it's my pleasure to come to you tonight with a really cool new thing. And more specifically, it is a powerful and exciting new data and information tool that is now available to our colleges for the cost of $0. And so it's my pleasure to explain a little bit about what we're discussing. This is called the National Study of Learning, Voting, and Engagement, which is conducted by Circle out of Tufts University. So what is it? It is an aggregate analysis of voter data about our students, voter registration and voting rates for enrolled students at our colleges. It costs us nothing to participate except for the consent, which has been provided by our provost. So thank you for your support for doing this. It has been thoroughly vetted as legal and in compliant with FERPA restrictions on sharing data about students. Over 260 colleges and universities across the country participate in this study, including all of our 10 colleges. So what is it? The NSLVE study takes data that we already share on a regular basis with the National Student Clearinghouse as to our enrolled student populations, and they compare that to public databases on public information on voting behavior. So they basically match up our students with data about who is registered to vote in each state and who actually did vote. So they conducted this study for the first time based on the 2012 presidential election. And what they're able to do by comparing those two data sets is to give us back reports that say, for each of our colleges, for the students that were eligible in that 2012 election, how many in total were registered to vote that could have been registered to vote, and of those who actually did vote. And so, as I mentioned before, that is all conducted by Circle at Tufts University. And so what does this give us is a baseline. This is the first time this has ever been done. And so the data that we have now tells us a little bit, but it will tell us more the further out into the future we go, comparing back to the 2012 presidential election as the baseline. It gives us a college-specific analysis for each of our 10 colleges as to, for their students, what does the voter registration rate look like? And what does a voting pattern look like for each college? We're able to use that data to compare ourselves to other two-year colleges that participated in the study, and we can also compare our students' voting behavior to Maricopa County and Arizona voters. What it does not do is give us the ability to identify anyone. Neither the Circle folks nor us are able to see specific students' data, so we don't know if a given individual registered to vote or voted, much less how they voted. The data sorting is limited to the nature of the data that we provide to the National Student Clearinghouse, and since this is the first time that it's ever been done and we've ever gotten these reports, we're still figuring out how to read the data and what we can do with it in the future. We do have the option to request tailored reports. If we share data with the National Student Clearinghouse as to gender and ethnicity, we can ask for reports that give us very specific outcomes for different groupings. But what we have for 2012 at this point is just an aggregate total for our students at each college. What it does not also include are students that have opted out. When you enroll and you register in our system, you have the ability to check a box that says, I don't want my data as a student to be used for any purpose, including research purposes. And so those students are not included in the pool. So why do we do this? Among other reasons, you may be aware that Maricopa is a national leader in civic education efforts. Maricopa, along with De Anza College in California, started a movement, which is now a national movement of community colleges called the Democracy Commitment. And the Democracy Commitment is basically community colleges across the country saying it's a critical part of our mission is to prepare students for civic life. And it's a collaborative effort of community colleges to learn from each other and to promote best practices in curriculum and in student life and in administration. Or how do we do that? How do we live as democratic institutions? Well, one of the starting gate initiatives of the Democracy Commitment was this study in partnership with Circle. And so we wanted to be part of this movement and also be able to benefit from the data that it would yield. It also falls in line with what we're required to do by federal and state law. As you're aware, the Higher Ed Act requires us to not just assist students with voter registration, but to actively inform them about elections processes and voting. Which we've been doing since before I worked for Maricopa. I got to know Maricopa when I worked in elections and worked with legal counsel and with academic affairs to come up with compliance strategies for that. But all this time we've been able to measure our inputs. How many voter registration forms are we sending to the colleges? How many events are we having? But we were never able to capture any kind of outputs. So now for the first time we're going to be able to start to see, you know, what does voter registration and voting look like in our colleges. We also have a state law, Arizona Revised Statutes, you have the citation there, which also requires us to actively educate students about voting and elections, not just abstract process, but year by year, the specific content, what are the impacts of election outcomes that affect students in their lives. And it's in our mission that you, the governing board, have adopted and refined over time. We have very specific outcome statements that say we need to be doing these things, educating students about civic and political learning opportunities, democratic processes, community and civic learning activities. So this study now gives us the ability over time to track what kind of an impact do these kinds of activities have on students' actual voter behavior. So, how did we do? I'll start out by giving you, I'll give away the big picture. Our numbers are below all of these numbers. However, I don't think we should be too discouraged by that. This data shows us 18 to 24-year-old college student voting patterns over the last 30 years. And the authors of the study themselves say that we should take these numbers with a big grain of salt. These numbers come from U.S. Census surveys that they do of the population, and so it introduces some room for data error, and one of them is that it's all based on self-reporting. So people go out into the community, they do random sampling, which introduces some representational errors, but it also, there's an ability for people to report doing things that they didn't actually do. So we can expect that the voter registration and the voting data as represented in this graph is actually a little inflated based on the realities. But here's what we do. Starting with the voter registration rate. Maricopa colleges in aggregate, our average registration rate of eligible students shows up as 57.2 across the district percent. That also may be lower than the reality because I'm still trying to vet the data issues with the authors of the study. This may include non-U.S. citizens. And so our true numbers may actually be higher than 57.2%. When we look at the specific colleges, they range on the low end from 53.2% to on the high end 60.7%. So not that far away from the national average given that U.S. Census survey data. Then if we look at the voting rate of all students, the average for the national survey is 53%. We come in at 40.7%, ranging from college to college from 38.1 to 44.2%. Now that's a percentage of all the students that are in the pool, whether or not they're registered to vote. When we look at the students that are registered to vote in the 2012 election, the numbers are higher. So the turnout just among the registered voters nationally in that survey was 82%, which is quite high. Our colleges in aggregate come in at 71.2%, and the range is 68.9 on the low end to 74.4 on the high end.
But that strikes me as being significant because the total voting population is closer to 55 or 60%, right?
Right.
So the young people are voting.
Yes, and when we break down into specific groups, there's some real significant, in this election in particular, I think it's especially noteworthy that across the country, and in Arizona in particular, young African men voted higher rates than any other group. And it really caught the attention of a lot of social behavior researchers and political scientists to say, is this a trend? Is it an anomaly? Is this a turnaround in voting behaviors? Or is it just really related to the nature of that specific presidential election?
And this was which presidential election again?
The 2012.
Politicians are looking at this too.
Exactly, very much so. And then if we look at Maricopa County, if we just look at Maricopa County registered voters, our students are very similar to non-students. Maricopa County registered voters turned out just above 75%, 76.5. Our students that were registered voted at 71.2%. So what are our takeaways? Many of the students that we are compared to in the study, and you have the full documents there, a lot of those other institutions have higher numbers than ours, but it should be noted that many of those are four-year residential institutions. And a lot of their elections and voter outreach programs are based on residence life programs, so they have the students for a lot more time. And they've got somewhat of a captive audience, whereas ours are commuter students, and it's a little difficult to do an apples to oranges comparison. But I think it's significant that we should look at the fact that nearly 3 out of 4 students that were registered to vote actually did complete a vote. They did turn out to vote in the 2012 election. That's a very high number.
I have a question.
Yes,
when
sir.
you get is this data shared with students?
The report data?
The reports that you get.
It is not. It's brand new. We just got it. We're still figuring out what to do with this information.
Right, I understand. But okay, thanks.
So, as I mentioned, this is the very beginning. This is the start of things. This is the data that will give us a benchmark against which we will measure our progress over the coming elections. It should be noted that it's, for relevancy's sake, we should always be careful to compare similar elections. So we should compare presidential election years to other presidential election years and midterms to midterms, because we know that the voter behavior in general is significantly different between those two different kinds of elections. But what we do know is that students are, and some of this is my own anecdotal experience with our colleges, students are intensely interested and passionate about elections outcomes, and when we ask them to get involved, they do. These pictures are all from several election-related events that took place in the year 2012. Specifically one that was held at Phoenix College. It was a multi-campus effort called Glow the Vote. It was entirely student initiated. This wasn't an administrator or my office saying you guys should do this. This was started with one student at Phoenix College who we sent to a conference on voter education, and she came back and she said, we got to do this stuff. So she got her peers from several other colleges together and asked me to help them. So what you see pictures of are them explaining the ballot measures to other students and to community members, registering people to vote, and having discussions about candidates. They held candidate debate watch events. And so this is really in line with what we're trying to do with the democracy commitment, is not just have, yes, we want colleges to do more rigorous and systematic efforts to educate students about voting in elections, but to put students in the driver's chair of saying, you have a lot of power in your own communities to educate voters and impact the outcome of elections. My other hat as an elections worker from way back, we know that the research tells us that the #1 thing we can do to impact voting rates is to inform people about the content. Most people are not voting not because they don't care about elections or because they're too cynical to participate. They don't vote because A, they don't know an election is happening, they don't know how to participate, they've never heard of the candidates, they don't know what you do in the governing board or why they should care, and they don't know how to understand the ballot questions that are presented to them. So the more we can inform and educate people about ballot content, the more we can expect to see a change in voting behavior. So what do we do now? We're continuing with the Democracy Commitments Engage the Election initiative. All 10 of our colleges are signatories to that and have a designated person to work on the democracy commitment at their campus. And so we're going to be working with those point persons at each college to develop more and more aggressive election and voter outreach strategies, including involving students in voter registration, candidate events, ballot issues, education, and general get-out-the-vote activities. And so I welcome working with any of you college presidents and your democracy commitment folks to take what we did started in 2012 and explode it to ever higher levels. And with that, I'm happy to take any questions. Thank you very much.
I just wanted to point out, one of our 4 N's, or outcomes, is community development, civic global engagement. This is a wonderful program devoted to that end, and I'm very proud of it.
Thank you very much.
The numbers are amazing. You know, we hear about millennials and their inactivity in politics because they're fed up with it and all the other things. This totally turns that around. Now, if we're talking our age student, typical age student, you know, under 24, it shows that there's a change coming about if this continues to keep moving. Now, the key to success, in my, if you can get every voter to understand each of the judges that we have to vote on.
That's a perfect example. The voting rate for judges is terrible, but if you ask, more than 9 out of 10 voters don't know that they have information provided to them about the judges. A lot of people, most people don't read the ballot publicity pamphlet with information about the ballot measures, but even the ones that do, most of them don't know that there's information in there about the judges. So just telling people where they can get information about the judges to take with them to the polls or to mark their mail-in ballot makes a big difference. Most people skip that part of the ballot because they have no basis for making those decisions.
And the bad thing is we're at the bottom of that.
Right. Exactly.
Thank you. That is awesome. And I look forward to more of these statistics as the program grows.
Thank you.
Thanks, Roberto. Good job.
Next on the agenda is the Faculty Executive Council report. Mr. Hefner.
Hello, welcome to my debut at the podium.
Welcome. You are doing a good job already. Well.
So far, so good. President Saar, members of the board, Dr. Glasper, members of the CEC and guests. I'm Keith Hefner. I am the Faculty Association President. This is going to be a brief but sincere quick report, just 3 items. Number 1, it is our opinion based on practice and outcomes that interest-based negotiation works. We have applied IBN to work through issues and venues ranging from meet and confer to one-on-one mediation in the workplace. The faculty support the efforts of the district to continue employing the tenets of IBN as a tool to identify common interests as a means towards reaching consensus to solve problems. Thank you for investing in this particular tool. 2, we plan to continue our commitment to be engaged partners with employee groups and administration in the spirit of cooperation and positive advancement for the good of the mission of the district. 3, I offer my time and expertise as Faculty Association President to all of you. Should you wish to contact me to discuss topics relative to my position, I'm happy to share my contact info at your request. I look forward to serving this year and am honored to be the Association President. Thank you, and I hope I pass the audition. Thanks.
Very good, very good. The Adjunct Faculty Association here tonight? Okay. Do you have something? Do you have something you want to say? No. That's appreciated. Glad to have you here.
Introduce yourselves.
Yeah. Go ahead and introduce yourselves, however.
Yes, I'm Roberto Hernandez. I'm the Phoenix College rep for the Adjunct Faculty Association.
Good.
I'm Roxanne Basham-Sternberg. I'm the vice president of the
Thanks for being here. Next we have from the women's, nope, that's not here either. So no reports from the vice chancellors, no reports from college reports. Mr. Burke, do you have a report from AADGB?
We meet again in September. We met in May and elected officers. Lloyd Hammonds of Coconino Community College is our new president or chair.
And you are?
Secretary Treasurer.
I thought so. Congratulations. Mr. Lumm?
No report.
And I'm reporting on ACCT. We have a conference coming up in October, and as we do every year, our district submits one or two or more presentations for consideration, and so far we've received a positive response on our veterans activities throughout the district. So look to us to find out what all of the colleges are doing as far as veterans. We know they do a lot, and that's why we submitted this. So we look forward to making that presentation in Chicago. Next meetings. Note the change of this meeting time and location change. It's July 15th is the agenda review. It will be held in the Maricopa room on the first floor, about underneath us right here. And then on July 22nd at 6:30, we have our regular board meeting right here in this governing board room. Being that everybody's ready to go home, I call the meeting of June 24th into adjourn.